It is the time to officially say goodbye.
This is one of my favorite things to do every year, to recognize our retirees because of all the service that they provide to District 6, but it's also bittersweet because we lose really good people.
Members and family of Clark County Fire District 6 employees gathered at Station 63 for a retirement ceremony. 6 people with combined service of more than 100 years saying goodbye to the 3 a.m. wake-up alerts, the heartbreaking calls, and going home smelling like a chimney, and saying hello to time off, freedom to travel, and an end of ever wearing a uniform again. Serving in the fire service is more than just an individual sacrifice.
To the families, thank you for letting them serve. We know the sacrifices you have endured, missed birthdays, holidays, and special events, but we know that you know the importance of what they are doing for the families of our community.
The first honoree, Dave Fisher, with the district for 23 years and always the prankster.
One of his favorite times was when he drove Baum absolutely crazy. Baum got a new hairdryer and Fisher would rewire it so it would run backwards. Baum would continually replace this hairdryer thinking it wasn't working. Every time, Fisher would grab it again and rewire it again. He went so far as to buy an identical hairdryer and keep up the antics. Finally, Brad Schaefer accidentally spilled the beans and the gig was up. The funniest part was, Fisher says Baum didn't even have enough hair then to need a hairdryer.
The second honoree, Captain Clint Greeley, with 28 years at District 6, he was a firefighter, paramedic, artist, captain, and pickleball player.
He was trying to keep up with Colleen and struggling to do so, but his competitive nature wouldn't let him quit. According to Greeley, he had to cover the entire court and save a ball, and his muscular calf couldn't keep up with his competitive nature. In the ER, he began to cramp up, and the nurse told him to suck it up. He looked to Dunnigan for sympathy, and he asked him to rub it out. Dunnigan walked out the door and replied, "Nope."
Our third retiree, Captain Scott Johns, who had 23 years with the district.
Scott is an amazing storyteller, and if you don't have at least an hour to spare, you better avoid getting caught in his tales. But if you have time, they are detailed, energetic, and the excitement he tells them with are something you soon won't forget.
With 24 years at District 6, the next honoree, Captain Paul Olofsson.
Some of his favorite times at CCFD 6 were when he played Ultimate Frisbee. It was just good and can't be reproduced. He remembers people would come in off duty to play, and they would even buy their own cleats. What he will remember most is the stories that were made and the team aspect. He says we could pick up the slack for each other and take care of each other, a lot like the military. 99% of the time that works. You put people together and expect them to do the right things.
Our fifth retiree to be EMS Captain Eric Simica, 28 years.
One of the funniest stories he can remember is messing with Ryan Reese on probation. Eric worked with Captain Orman on Engine 6-1, and Ryan worked with Lieutenant Smith on Engine 6-3. Every time Engine 6-3 would get a call, Engine 6-1 would drive to the station and make Ryan's bed on the roof of the station. Smith finally called Orman and told him to knock it off. Well, 63 got another call. They drove straight to the station, ignoring Doug's warning, and made Ryan's bed on the roof again. When they were heading home, they passed Engine 63, who was still on a call, and just smiled and waved. They then could see Doug start kicking and throwing stuff. Really, Eric was just following orders. He was an innocent bystander.
Finally, with a whopping 31 years of experience at District 6, Matt Hollingsworth.
One of the funniest things that happened to him at District 6 had to do with Doug Smith and Mike Laster. Matt and Mike had gathered a bunch of old engine parts and stored them until the time was right. One day they were pump testing Engine 6-3. Yes, we used to have to pump test. And when Doug and Mike were uploading the hose, Matt began throttling down the engine and started hitting the fish box with a mallet. He then took a bucket of the parts they had gathered and threw them under the engine with some transmission oil. He said, "Doug, did you hear that?" Doug came down and looked at the scene and said, "Oh no," and started walking towards Chief Losbeck's office. When he almost made it to the bay doors, Matt and Mike came clean. Doug was furious and did not talk to them for the next 3 shifts, but the engine was okay.
They all have different plans for retirement and will likely all go their separate ways, but they will always have one thing in common. For a few years, they all worked and lived at a little fire district in Southwest Washington.